Kiali Sprint 72 community meeting. Today we are trying to release the version 1.50. Right, and yeah, as typical, we are going to summarize what we have done on this Sprint 72. What are the highlights of this work? And after that, we stop the recording and we have the community discussion with meeting. All right, so yeah, this Sprint 72 was pretty focused on testing, on adding new upstream testing capabilities, more focused on infrastructure to improve our upstream pipeline in GitHub and also in bug fixes. I typically have a summary of here, but let me to show how to access here. So we use the Kiali projects just to track all this information. So if you go to the Kiali organization, where you can see all the repositories, you can click into the project tab. We usually have all projects, one project per sprint, right? So you can see the closed project, you can track what we have accomplished, we have delivered, right? And we have an open project per sprint, right? And you can see here all level of detail. We create an issue and we link pull requests with the issues. You can see all information. So this is our main main tool, just to define the backlog. So what we are going to promote for this sprint, what kind of tasks or epics are in progress, and when we prepare pull requests or community prepare pull requests for these issues, we link them just to give a little bit of automation, the big tool. And yeah, this sprint was more focused on testing infrastructure capability rather than features, but I guess that we are doing pretty good progress. So yeah, let's go to the highlights of the sessions. So I need to let Leandro, because he's working pretty hard to this pipeline with GitHub Action. So Leandro, would you like to summarize part of your work?
Yes, of course. Let me share the screen. I can show the pipeline if that's okay.
Yeah, feel free to. I stopped sharing. Just feel free to take the.
Great. So yeah, like you mentioned, we were working on migrating existing pipelines that were on Jenkins before. Now we are bringing those pipelines into GitHub Actions. This is because we want that the pipelines being transparent for all the community to show the status of the releases and how we are making the releases. So this is the release pipeline of the Kiali server. We have other workflows, but basically we are focusing on the release. For now, we can start them manually, filling up some parameters like the release type, the branch to release, and the query repository to push the images. So we have here some testing. This is my fork. Now, today will be the first release using these pipelines. So I would say that maybe we will have some errors, so have patience with the next release, but it will be okay, I guess. So as an example, I will show a release pipeline that was successful. We can see that we have some steps. We are doing some initializing, gather some variables, building and unit testing the backend and the front end. Then we are running integration tests. These are the same integration tests that we had in our existing CI pipelines. And then this job is doing all the release stuff, like tagging into the repository, creating the release in GitHub, updating branches, or creating PRs in the case it's needed. So we migrated the Kiali server pipeline, the Kiali operator pipeline, the Helm charts at the Kiali side. I just showing one for this demo, but you can find them on the Actions tab for the other repositories. So yeah, I think it's all. Hope everything will be okay today. So let's see. Thank you. Back to you, Lucas.
Thank you, Leandro, for the work and for the explanation. To share again the screen. Okay, so yeah, also we are working to improve the integration test. I guess, Heike, are you here? Would you like also to describe the some aspects of the work?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the for the integration test, there was ongoing effort to convert the existing legacy end-to-end integration test from Python to Golang, and within this sprint, the core functionality of this integration test, which is covering the almost the whole functionality of Kiali REST API, was done. There is only ongoing work with to increase the coverage, some negative cases, some status validations, which will be finished today or in the beginning of next sprint. Otherwise, very soon we will have the integration test ready for Kiali master testing, and then I can backport it to version 1.48.
Okay, thank you for that day. Yeah, very nice. So I guess that when all this integration test migration is more or less in good state, that the idea is, as commented in previous sprint, is just to ensure that the pull request will be the unit of work, right? The idea is that when we make change the features or we then fixes or bugs, is that also we update in the same unit of work all the testing included. The main goal that we want to do. Yeah, thank you, Hike, for the day. So also, yeah, this sprint was pretty hard, pretty strong in at more Cypress testing, Cypress UI testing. So we are introducing an AO, a public upstream test about that. We've set up several tests, and we are still adding new tests. The idea is to have a first corpus of testing that can help to others as to create more testing around the UI. And I guess it could be interesting to show a little demo about how to add UI test demo, because it's something that the team is already working on this kind of pull requests. Let me to find an example that I would like to share with you how to add a demo, how to add a test. Sorry. For example, this is one. First of all, to add a test, you need to send a pull request as usual. And what do we want to test? So I have in my IDE, I'm going to show you how to work. I have a mini cube cluster with my demo applications, right? Similar that the uses in the pipeline. So this is my local host cluster accessing to Kiali where I can see a scenario, right? And I have my typical booking form. This is my booking. That's nothing, I guess it's nothing new for everyone. So what we want to test, this is the booking info is working, perfect. One of the features that I would like to test is, how to add Istio configuration from the Wi-Fi. I want to automate a test to use, for example, this example. Remember the JSON example? Because if you want to go to the details of the review service and you want to add a Istio configuration, you can go to the details and you can click in the actions and add a request routine, right? A request routine like, okay, I want to put a user header exact to JSON, want to add a match, okay? In this match, I want to route all the traffic to the user JSON, and the rest of the traffic I want to add it to the reviews version 3. So I'm adding two rules. One rule that is going to match to check if the headers and users are JSON, and another any request rule just to match the rest of the traffic to the review version 3, right? This is what one of the wizards because I want to test. I click into the preview. The preview is going to show me that the filter service generated is similar, for example, like the demo one. The end user is the header, exact, etc. As usual, right? I hope this is another feature that we have in Kiali. I create the scenario, and what Kiali is going to do is to create the destination rules, the reviews for you. I think it that the destination rule is going to show the destination rule, but also add all the reference to the workloads and to the services. When I think that this Istio configuration is okay, if I want to delete it, to remove it, just go to the actions and delete the traffic. Okay. This is what I want to automate and to create in a Cypress UI test. I'm going to show you what we are doing, right? So the first of all, this is my ID. In the front-end ID, you have a folder called Cypress, right? In the Cypress, there is an integration folder. There are two folders. One is the feature files folder, and the other is the common, right? So when you define a test, right, just to create a feature where you are going to describe the high-level steps that you want to implement, right? You are going to define the scenarios. You're going to create a request routing scenarios, and you are going to, to describe in high level how to describe high level. There are different approaches. At the moment, the team is just playing with different approaches, having discussion about what is the best language wording, first person, third person, just to describe this. So, but the idea is just to at least to have something that we can understand, right? Like, okay, I'm going to open this page, I'm going to click in the actions, I'm going to repeat the same steps to get there. And you should also create another file with the same name with a request routine, but with finishing in TS, that is going to implement with the Cypress framework, is going to implement all the actions. So, for example, when I have the user clicks something, basically what is doing Cypress is just finding the DOM via selector, right? A button calls data-test, right? That's going to find this button. When they find the button, it's going to simulate a click. And when the click is going just to wait until all the configuration has been generated, right? This is basically what they are doing, right? Basically, this is basically the approach that we are following. When you have your test ready, or you want to test it, you do your terminal to type make cypress. Cypress is going to run in the first stage. Is going to open the tool, and it's going to tell you all these features. It's going to show you how to execute them, right? So you can just focus on the testing that you are developing. You need to have your local cluster up running. I'm going to check that. Okay, so I delete the configuration just to be sure that there is no configuration for the test. And I can I will click here. Yes. Oh, opening a different window. So let me to show you. When I click here, what I'm going to show is how all the same steps that I perform are now being automatically executed by the tool. So let me to repeat that again, because it was pretty fast. So I'm going to click. This is going to open the tool, and it's going to execute them. So these are the scenario that I'm developing. You can see the other side how it's automating the test, and we just try to check all the steps. Nice thing is that, okay, so when you have a test finishes, you can see all the steps step by step. This is pretty powerful, pretty interesting. You can see debug if all the implementation of your test is working. It's something that I particularly do a lot, is to see, okay, if this selector working or not, do I need to add a new data dash test attribute into the system button just to make my test easier, right? And you can see here step by step. So the tool is pretty powerful, right? And you can also to add new tests pretty easily in the project. Right? So this is what we are doing. Yeah, and this is an example of how to show that. This is, for example, is a pull request that is sent to. Oh, yeah, this is a pull request when you can see that in the pull request contain the feature files that I showed you. It also contains the implementation. But what's interesting is that when you are working in some selectors, you need to add an additional selector, for example, just to implement how to choose a button and automate a button. That is something that we expect that contributors to the testing can also to add to make this test more easy to maintain and to add more. Right? And yeah, I hope this helps a little bit to get more familiar with this tool. I'm also learning with this tool to see how to add how to improve on the testing. So we have a lot of work to get consensus. What is the best approach to that? But just I wanted to show a first demo to invite everyone just to add new tests because the tool is pretty powerful and you will see that it simplifies compared with other kind of tooling. It helps a lot to build that. Just one mention is that when you have your test, the idea is this all this testing will be part of the pipeline. So I guess that you will see in your pipeline that when you have a pull request, all the testing is being, okay, so all the checks is being executed in the Cypress integration test. You can click in the details. And what you will see here is to run all this testing, but offline, work offline with no window, right? I can run in background, right? I can tell you how it's working. So we are working to try to stabilize these tests that are pretty solid, that we don't have any kind of flaky situation. And now it's looking pretty good, but we are still working on that. And yeah, I wanted just to give an example of about that. Hope it helps.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
In the TS files, where you have the selectors, what's the easiest way to get the names of those selectors? Do you look in the source code or do you look in the F12 debug of the browser? Like how do you get
You need to look into the DOM, right? What I typically do is there are several ways to inspect the DOM. You can choose whatever is more productive for you. What I choose is typically I use the debug of my browser, right? I try to identify what is the selector, what is interesting. For example, this one, right? Where I check if I have a data dash test data attribute. If not, I try instead to do a selector by classes or instead to do a selector by ID. We prefer to try to introduce new data attributes that are just focused for testing. That's going to help that that these components are consistent and if the class, the style change, the test is not broken. And I use this. Typically, I start inspecting on this. If I don't have a data attribute, I add one as part of my pull request. And this is basically what we do. Then with that method or that way, so the selector can be more straightforward. Otherwise, you will need just to take the parent component and the parent component iterate with the children, try to find some expression. It's case by case, but as we are starting, the idea is that we use this kind of data, those test attributes, just to try to make the test more easy.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add something there too as well? There's a a Chrome extension. I think it's for Firefox too, called React DevTools. And in the same way that you can inspect the DOM normally, you can inspect React components and how they're nested within each other. Since where you'll be adding that data test label or attribute is on a React component, that also makes it easier to find out exactly which component to add that attribute to.
Yeah, that was well.
I'd recommend downloading that extension.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the team is pretty active on this effort, and as commented, the idea is that it's going to be part of the daily routines. The idea is that when we have the pull request and we have some change in the features, for example, we modify this with us, so now we will have a UI test that we can also modify at the same time. We add things here, add functionalities, or we fix some problems. So it's something that now this tool is pretty straightforward, and it's something that we can also do work at the same time that we develop in the features. So we have a lot of different pull requests just to sync with. It's pretty cool. Really, I can say I'm not. I wasn't not familiar with it, but I guess it's okay. So yeah, I guess we have a lot of miscellaneous fixes and changes. Jay, would you like to comment on them if you are around?
Sure, I can run through them. I don't have maybe details on all of them, but just to go through it. As part of our whole consolidation on GitHub tooling, we wanted to consolidate. We were getting reports for security violations from multiple places, so we wanted to just consolidate, and we're going to be using GitHub's Dependabot. So we removed the snake stuff from our environment. We did make another update to the operator. Our operator is Ansible based. We updated the Ansible base image for that. Some misspelling here. We quieted some logging a little. We had some debug logging that was a little bit verbose. That's been moved down to trace level. Actually, Junzu, you actually, I believe, added this cleanup of expired clients. So thank you. There were a couple tweaks, and I think at least one community submission to make some minor changes to the demos and tutorials. And I know we had a couple of fixes, maybe a few more than this, but there was definitely one that had to do with validation of destination rules that went in, and also another one that had to do with the YAML display for virtual services. There's a variety of even smaller changes, like there is every sprint, but this is a summary of some of the more important miscellaneous fixes and changes. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the update. Yeah, I guess that is what the most work of the team. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm going to stop the